Welcome to Eerie Essex, a podcast for those who want to join us on our journey into the stranger side of the county.
We will be exploring the folklore, urban legends and supernatural encounters that form part of its rich history. Yay, we did our introduction.
We did it! All those weeks of prep and we're here.
Finally, at last. We should probably tell people who we are.
Okay, well, I'm Bethan Briggs-Miller. I'm the believer, who will pretty much believe anything. And
I'm Ailsa Clark, and I'm the skeptic. I like to look at things logically. I love a good horror story. I love a good ghost story. I think that our folklore gives us an idea about how our belief systems were formed. But I don't tend to off the bat believe things.
yeah, I'm looking at you to rein me in a bit with stuff we discover, because I keep saying I'm new to the area. I'm not. I've been here 10 years.
Well, we're both kind of transplants, aren't we? Like, you've come over from Wales.
Yeah.
10 years ago. I mean, I've been in the area for nearly 30 years, but I'm like, my family's moved all over the place and actually lived in Suffolk, and I've only moved into Essex in the last 4 years, even though I work here.
Ah, so we're going to discover it together.
Yeah, well, I have worked for basically every tourist attraction in Colchester. So I know a lot about Colchester, not a lot about Essex.
Same. I don't drive, so I haven't been out in Essex much. I know Colchester and Wivenhoe, and that's about it. So I'm very much looking forward to learning more. And I think you get to learn more about an area through its folklore than its actual history, because it's how people thought. It's how
Yes,
people
exactly.
lived.
Yes. And it's more, and when you're looking at history, you're seeing the side of history which has been written down, which is usually made by the sort of the nobles and the richer people. Whereas when you're looking at folklore, you're looking at the lives of everyday people, which I find more fascinating.
Yeah, as you say, history was written by those who wanted it to sound a certain way, maybe, and washed over some other things, whereas perhaps that's why folklore can perhaps seem dark, maybe,
Yes.
because people had nothing to lose. They didn't want to prove anything. It was just what they believed.
Exactly. And they believe some weird stuff.
Weird things, yes.
That was almost our first swear, Bethan.
It really was. And there may be many more.
Yes.
Apologies in advance, but some things are pretty weird coming up.
Right. Oh, we should thank Jostow.
Yeah, sorry, Joss. We've known you for many years, and we're still arguing on how to say your last name, even though I asked you 2 weeks ago. Now, Joss Dow did the amazing theme tune that you've just heard. And what we asked for was something creepy yet folky. And I think he delivered.
He really did. It really sent chills down my spine listening to that.
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
And Joss plays with Fishclaw, which is a fantastic local band. Look them up. They've just released a new album and it is fantastic. So we love you, Joss.
And hopefully they'll be gigging soon with, things opening up safely.
Hopefully, yes. By the time we actually release this, we might know more. So you listeners, you know more than us at this point.
Yes, you're in the future. We're in the past. Speaking to you from beyond.
Speaking to you from beyond. So we've decided to approach this podcast in monthly installments and looking at themes. Now, Elsa's picked the first theme this month. Do you want to tell us what it is?
I picked the theme hotel or inns. It's I don't know why I picked it. It just kind of popped into my head, but it was a really fascinating wealth of sort of research to be done there. We found so much stuff.
Yes. And I was thinking about why hotels feel creepier than perhaps any other place you can visit. You sleep there. You're at your most vulnerable there. You're not just popping in on the off chance you might see a ghost, you might not. You're going to be there in the witching hour.
And but it's also like a liminal space, isn't it? You're not there. No one lives there unless it's like, a B&B, but it's not a place that's lived in. You just pass through it.
Yes. Hence why it's perhaps creepier.
Mm.
Just in case anyone wonders what any background noises are today, we're not alone, but not in the spooky
We're
way. Well,
never
at least we don't
alone.
know. We're never alone. I have two little demons, I mean children, who hopefully are well bribed with chocolate and Postman Pat and Paw Patrol, or the latest that Disney Plus has to offer. But, even that only has its limits.
And I have a large white fluffy cat called Casper, who may decide to make some noise later and ask for food or just general attention.
He's the third host.
He is, though he's asleep right now, so he's an appalling host.
Well, it is quite early on a Saturday. Sorry I called it this early. I thought we'd be hitting some snags earlier
Well,
and
we
more
did.
often. We did. But they're done now.
Yay.
Who wants to go first?
We should really flip a coin, shouldn't we?
It's your theme. Do you want to go first?
I'll go first, yeah. Do we want to do all of ours? Because we've picked a couple of them.
Mm. Well, I'm intrigued at the one you said, wait till you hear it. You've got me really excited. So whichever one that was.
So my first place I looked into was the Bell Inn at Thorpe Oaken. And I really loved this one because it was almost like a Regency novel, the way this took place. I actually wrote in my notes, Charlotte Bronte, eat your heart out. And it's just brilliant. So the Bell Inn at Thorpe Oaken is haunted by a ghost known as the Beautiful Bigamist.
Oh.
And her story is, I think it's actually more fascinating than the actual haunting. But I'll just run through it really it'll take as long as it takes. So her name was Kitty Canham.
It's a good name.
Yes. And she's reputed to haunt the Bell Inn ever since her grave was disturbed in the 1800s.
Yeah,
so
don't do that, people.
The Bell Inn actually used to be the Guild Hall, and it backs onto St Michael's Church, which and its graveyard, which surrounds it. So it was quite easy to just. I mean, I think they did some renovation and disturbed it that way, but 1800s, so they probably weren't following historical guidance and things. So Kitty lived actually a little bit before that. She was, let me just find it. It was something like 1760, I think she lived. So Kitty was a resident of Thorpe Oaken. She was famously beautiful, and she attracted the attention of a man called Alexander Gough, or Gough, however you want to pronounce it, who was the vicar at St Michael's Church. So she was only 20 years old and he was much older than her. And early on in their marriage, they lost a baby. The marriage fell apart, and Kitty quickly grew bored with her life in Thorpe and decided to get away from her domineering husband. So she started off visiting London, and then one day she went to London and disappeared, and nobody knew what happened to her.
Oh.
Until this next part.
All right.
So she went to London and she met somebody called Lord Delamy, which I am probably pronouncing wrong. And she quickly fell in love with him, and they were married while she was still married to the vicar.
Oh.
Hence the Beautiful Bigamist. So they travelled in luxury through Europe for 3 years, in high society. She had a much more adventurous life, and she really did love her new husband. However, in Verona, she fell ill, and I think it was consumption, and she was on her deathbed basically, and finally confessed to her new husband that she was still married to Alexander in Thorpe-Soken. And she requested that Lord Delamy bring her body back to be buried in St. Michael's Church, where Alexander was still vicar. So her loving second husband set out to fulfill her wishes and put her body in a casket of brandy to sort of set it in place before they reached home.
As you
So,
do.
so they set sail, and apparently a storm blew them off course. They were headed for Harwich, but the storm blew them off course, and they ended up going down the River Colne, where they met the excisemen at Hythe Quay. So the exciseman, very suspicious, thought he was smuggling something because he was very protective over this casket of what did I call it? Was it rum or
Brandy.
brandy? Yes, and they stabbed it. So the casket burst open, the brandy went everywhere, as did Kitty's body. And her first husband was called to sort this whole mess out once Lord Delamy had explained himself. And apparently the vicar challenged Lord Delamy to a duel, but they actually realised how much Lord Delamy had loved Kitty, and they actually became friends. And they
No way.
they walked together in Kitty's funeral procession, and they buried her in St. Michael's Churchyard, where she had asked to be buried, which was all very sweet and lovely, and really does sound like a Charlotte Bronte novel, doesn't it?
It really does.
It was epic.
Netflix should pick that up. That's a
Yeah.
good tale.
Anyway, that should have been the end. The beautiful end to a sad story. However, in 1800s, the churchyard was disturbed during renovations, and Kitty's grave was dug up. So it was then reports started coming in of her spirit wandering, and it wasn't just the Bell Inn; it's the houses next to it as well.
Right.
So they see her all throughout because they're all back onto this churchyard. But in 1972, a guest of the pub awoke to find the room's heavy wardrobe had been moved and the spare bed looked slept in. So a giant wardrobe had been shoved across the room, basically. And people say that they feel her presence, and that they think that she's watching them when they're in the room. And then in 1999, fire destroyed most of the pub and the attached cottage, but Kitty's painting, which is in the Bell Inn, was completely untouched.
No way.
Yes, I actually have a picture of it, and it's a very strange painting. It looks like, a few years back when that old woman tried to restore that Jesus painting.
Yes.
It's a little bit strange. It kind of looks like that.
Maybe that's why she haunts.
That could be. It could be just be like she was called the beautiful bigamist, and she looks a bit like a Picasso.
Oh dear.
I probably shouldn't say this. I'm probably offending the painter, whoever. I hope not. Sorry.
I doubt they're going to come after you.
Sorry.
Where was it painted?
I don't know. Oh, I found the picture, but then there was no detail about it. Maybe when we set up our Instagram, we can have that as one of our first images of Kitty Cannon, the beautiful ghost bigamist.
Yeah.
Searching for maybe one of her two husbands for the rest of her afterlife.
Or the painter.
Or the painter to maybe have words. So the owners and the staff have all said they feel a presence in the pub, as well as the people in the neighbouring cottages, which were originally part of the inn/pub. There's also a second ghost there. So I haven't got a lot of information on this one, but apparently he's been seen, and his name is William Gull, and he is one of the suspects for being Jack the Ripper.
No way.
And I think he was sort of one of the physicians to Queen Victoria as well, but he is also buried in Thorpe-Soken churchyard.
Wow. Okay, that hotel has some good ghosts.
Yes, well, some interesting ghosts.
Yes.
A bigamist and a potential murderer.
Is that who the film... Oh, what was that film with Johnny Depp? From Hell? The Queen's physician was the murderer in that.
Yes. Do you know, I have been to like 6 or 7 places where they say, and this is where so and so, the potential Jack the Ripper is buried. I was in Bath once and I was on a boat trip and they said that when we were passing a little village. It's like a sort of a national claim to fame. We have a Jack the Ripper here.
Maybe there's more than one.
Well, there were several people who were potential suspects. So it seems like every part of the country has a potential suspect in it, or maybe more than one.
I had no idea there was one in Essex.
I don't think it's the only one. I swear I've been somewhere else where there's another one.
Maybe we need a whole episode on Jack the Ripper then.
Jack the Ripper's potential avatars and haunts.
Yes. That was a really good hotel.
I know. I loved that story so much. It's like you couldn't imagine it happening in real life. So fantastical.
Yeah, as you say, the actual story of her life is more interesting than the haunting.
Yeah. Do you want me to do another one, or do you want to do one of yours next?
I wouldn't mind doing one of mine next.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I stuck close to home. So I've looked at Colchester. It's the oldest town in the county, so it's chocker with
It's
ghosts.
a hotbed.
A hotbed for ghosts. You didn't have to look far. I think literally you can throw a stone and you find a haunted place.
I mean, most of the residents in this building think it's haunted.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the old barracks.
Yeah. So,
And actually, I've come across some for a later episode. Maybe there are some ghosts associated with the barracks.
oh, good, because I have been trying to look that up and I can never quite figure out how to.
Are you sure you want to know if you?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived here for a while. It's not like I'm scared of anything.
My husband is really scared of what I've uncovered where he works.
Oh, yeah, because he works in the old police station, doesn't he?
Yep,
Yeah, I've heard some stuff about that place.
me too. Maybe I'll tell him to steer clear of that episode.
Yeah, he's not really one for horror, is he?
Nope. Nope, he's staying far away from this. He said, and he's very worried that we're going to visit somewhere and bring something back with us.
Um, well, they're kind of.
Hopefully not. I don't want
mean,
that either.
I don't think we'll bring anything back, but I kind of want to see him get scared.
Well, we have seen that once.
Oh yeah, that was
Just for our listeners and just to embarrass him, Elsa's brother dressed as a dinosaur the other week and jumped out in our living room window and scared him. So
It was amazing.
it is good to witness a good scare with him.
Oh,
But we
God.
digress. So the first hotel I looked at was the Rose and Crown. This dates back to 1400, but the haunting stories don't really start until around the 1950s. One of the first recorded sightings was by a night porter who saw a ghostly blushing bride in reception. And she was going up the stairs. She was wearing a white lace wedding dress garnished with a red flower, which I thought was quite unusual.
Yeah, that's odd.
Pearl earrings and pearl necklace. So, this wasn't just a wispy ghost. Sounds quite
I mean, it sounds like a very 50s bride,
very
doesn't it?
50s. Yes. And then, probably unsurprisingly, the room particularly associated with her presence is room 204, which is the honeymoon suite. And there's rumours that she was perhaps the unfaithful wife of a local farmer, although if she was potentially killed in her wedding dress, she hadn't had much time to be unfaithful.
Yeah, it's do you know what I was thinking as well? Is that red flower that was garnishing the dress? Maybe it wasn't a flower. Maybe
I
it was.
did think that, yes, a wound of some kind,
Yeah.
or and farmers have guns.
Yes.
Maybe it's not as nice an image as we think, not a rose, as you point out. And one little thing, and I'm determined to find out more about this. Apparently, when they did some remodeling in the basement, they uncovered some prison cells. And apparently, these held prisoners that were then transported to Colchester Castle via a tunnel. Now, I know you know how much I love a tunnel.
You love tunnels so much.
I am
Every time that even the mention, the whisper of a tunnel.
I am there. If
Yes.
anyone, it's like Bloody Mary. If you say tunnels, I'll be there. Appear behind you, like, what? A tunnel? So yeah, I don't know if you've seen, but I've put in our list of subjects tunnels.
Yes, I did see that. I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, we've come up with a list of an ever-growing list, I might add, of things to look at in Essex. Is it over 60 now we've got?
Yeah, something like that. I'm actually logged into the drive. I could check it, though I don't know whether that's. I'm going to say it's around. Yeah, it looks like around 60.
Yeah. So I keep adding to it. Like woke up at 3 a.m. the other night and was like, oh,
The witching hour. Were
the
you
witching hour.
were you being sort of suggested by some spooky presence to
Might have
add?
been. Might have been. Well, this house does have a little spooky story, but I'll tell you that again. Anyway, the Rose and Crown. So that's the only real ghost story I came across. But then I did a little bit of digging around on Facebook, comments that people have left. And one of the things that seemed to happen a lot to people is interference with electricity. So TVs and alarms will turn themselves on, particularly around 2 a.m.
Hmm,
Now, not the usual
like
3 a.m.
it's like an alert, isn't it? Like when you set an alarm on your phone to say, "Oh, I've got to do this, so remind me an hour beforehand." Maybe that's what the ghost is doing. Like
Maybe. And I think
it's a
that's what
reminder.
that's what the hotel owners thought. They've asked people, can you check? And people have gone and checked, and even the staff have gone and checked to see if anyone has set the alarm, has anyone set the reminder, and nothing. Things just, I mean, lights, you can't set lights, can you? So things will just come on for no reason. Apparently, this happens in my next hotel too, but I won't spoil that yet. But yeah, 2 a.m. in the other place.
Yeah, 2 a.m. I wonder what, maybe something happened at 2 a.m. that it's kind of.
That's what I thought, maybe to do with the bride. And going back to the tunnels.
Get out of the tunnels, Bethan.
Well, just thinking, I mean, why? I mean, surely it's much more difficult to transport people in a tunnel when it's just up the road.
Well, I actually used to work in Colchester Castle, and there were always rumours of tunnels. There's so many rumours about tunnels under Colchester, it is insane. And we do know a few places where they buildings on the high street especially have very large they seem like tunnels underneath them. When I've talked to people, they've thought that they're possibly wine cellars before, but the castle especially and Castle Park actually has a sort of a history of the rumours of the tunnels. So I've talked to a few people about this when I worked at the castle, and it's hard to put your finger on what the exact truth is there.
Mm. I choose to believe there's a tunnel. A warren.
I choose to hold off my belief until further evidence is
I will get that
provided.
evidence. You will find me in one of those tunnels.
I really hope I don't find you in one of those tunnels. Because I think that would be the start of a horror movie.
It does sound a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all I could really get out of the Rose and Crown, considering how old it is. I found a really great video. I think, did I send it to you? Of the staff doing a ghost tour. They were trying to hunt for ghosts, and it is really funny. They've obviously got a really good sense of humor. I'll try and post a link to it on our Instagram, but it's well worth a look.
Yes, I do love those videos of people doing sort of ghost hunts and things. I love watching them, especially when they're on Facebook with the comments and everything, and people going behind you, behind you.
Yes. Yes, that Haunted Britain one is quite good.
Yeah, that's fun. Did you want to do another, or shall I go in
Uh,
with one of my mini ones? Or
You go in with one of your mini ones, and I'll
I'll
build
do
up to my
my.
big one.
I'm really sorry. I keep clearing my throat. By the way, I think it's hay fever. It's definitely not the Rona because I have done multiple tests, and we're not in the same room anyway. We're doing this over Zoom. Right. So my second one is the Thorn Hotel in Mistley, which was built 1723 on the site of a much older original building owned by dun 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 Matthew Hopkins,
Ooh.
the grand arsehole himself. That was our first swear. I'm really sorry.
Well, I think it's justified.
Yes. So the self-proclaimed witch finder general, who has been described as the foulest of foul parasites, an obscene bird of prey, and whose fanaticism made his name stink in men's nostrils. I'm not entirely sure where that quote came from,
It's quite
but
kind.
I really loved it, so I added it into my notes. So
We're
Matthew
going to
Hopkins.
come across him a couple of times now, aren't we? He's
Oh
just
yeah,
littered
I
across
mean
the county.
he is. He. I mean he. Oh God, I just hate him so much. Such a unrelenting, absolute bastard. So apparently, he wanted to set himself up as a gentleman. So whilst he lived in Manningtree, he owned the Thorn Hotel in Mistley, and there are rumours that he still haunts it. He's actually buried in Mistley, so that is one of the reasons he could be haunting it. Apparently, he also used to conduct investigations at the hotel when he owned it.
Oh, God.
And I mean, obviously, he bought this hotel, but he bought it with the profits he made from going town to town. Sort of,
Blood money.
yeah, blood money. And amazingly, apart from him, there are only two other ghosts who are thought to be at this hotel. You'd think him having bought it with the blood money that he made, accusing innocent people of witchcraft, torturing them, and sending them to hang, it would be an absolute hotspot. But apparently it's not. It only has two other little ghosts. One is a servant girl who was thought to have once worked at the hotel and still walks along the corridors. And also a small boy is seen at the rear of the building. Apparently during a fight, he was pushed under a horse in the stable, which trampled him to death.
Oh.
Which is really sad. Matthew Hopkins, his ghost is apparently spotted in quite a number of places, including the locale of Mistley, particularly the Thorn Hotel. But also, just to sort of like round this off nicely, the hotel now is apparently incredibly nice and is actually renowned for its fine cuisine. So don't let the fact that one of the biggest gits in history once owned it don't let that put you off from a visit.
No, I've heard good things about it too.
So that was one of my little mini ones. I have an even shorter one for you later if you want to do another one of yours.
Yeah. Well, we did talk about whether we're going to do this hotel or not because it's been done
Oh
and done
yes,
and done.
yeah.
But you can't move, especially in Colchester, without talking about the Red Lion.
Oh, it is the most famous. I think probably the most famous haunted hotel in Essex, at least, if not.
I'd heard of it when I lived in Wales,
Yeah.
even before I met my husband, so it got well known.
Mm.
Now, it was built in 1465 by the first Duke of Norfolk as his townhouse. Rather nice townhouse. And through archaeological excavations, there's evidence that there was a Roman fortress there with defences and streets and buildings of the later Roman town and an Anglo-Saxon hut. So there's even before the hotel, there's always been a presence there. There's always been a dwelling. There's always been things going on, people living their lives. So it's no wonder it's got.
It's history on top of history on top of history on top of history.
It's a lasagna of history in one spot.
Oh, I love that. A lasagna of history.
There are a fair few lasagnas around the town, I think, but yeah, Red Lion. I mean, one of the things they found, and which is where Red Lion Walk gets its name and the hotel, there was two Roman mosaic floors found, and one of them was depicting a red lion. And they've actually remade that. You can see it in Red Lion Walk. I think
Oh
it's
yes, I've seen,
above.
yeah.
No, that's a depiction of what they found. And bless her, it's a really heartbreaking one, this one. The ghost of Alice Catherine Miller. So she was a servant girl there, and she met her untimely end in 1638. She fell in love with a guest, a nobleman, and she was, oh bless her, she saw it as a way out. She thought this person was going to sweep her off her feet. She was going to have this wonderful new life, and he did come back, but not for her. He
Oh,
denied everything. And Whatever happened, it escalated because then she was brutally murdered.
Oh God.
I don't know the details, but apparently it was
So
brutal.
she literally got ghosted.
Yeah, she literally got ghosted. And then I went on a history walk when I first came down from Wales, and I really tried to find the name of the person who I went on this walk with. If anybody listening knows who around 2011 was doing ghost walks, I'd be really grateful if you could let me know because he obviously had a wealth of knowledge, and you can't find this information online much. But apparently, her lover tried to cover up the fact that he had murdered her by throwing her out the window
I
onto the
mean,
courtyard.
it's not that high. It would not have killed her.
No, it was never ever going to have absolved him.
It's a
Bless her.
poorly thought out plan.
Very poorly thought out plan. But her ghost remains there to this day. Apparently, in the 1800s, my notes. I kept finding stuff, so I kept adding things. It's not in order because I thought, oh, I've got everything now. Oh, this is interesting, and then adding something new. So apparently, in the 1800s, the owner was so scared of her because she used to, I think she still does, pop up like through a wall. Like people will be going about their business, and she
Hello, do you want
just
some tea?
wait, do you know, you joke. But apparently, before I get to the owner, I'll skip ahead. One of the staff members was staying one night in one of the rooms and was awoken at 3 a.m. Why not? By a jolt of electricity. And he sat up and looked across to the rocking chair that was rocking. And as he looked, a figure of a woman appeared. And she leant across and said, "Are you all right?" And he said, "Yeah." And she
Oh
disappeared.
my God.
So bless her heart. She
Oh,
sounds
she's
a
so
very,
sweet.
she's so sweet. But yeah, the owner in the 1800s was so scared of her that he had her room bricked up. Apparently, her room is in one of the attic rooms. You can still see it.
Oh yes, no, I have been in the Red Lion, and they have that. They have a glass sort of bit in one of the bars, and they have like a mannequin up there that lights up every now and again.
Yes.
Um, yes, which is a bit cheeky, but
Why
all in
not?
good fun.
All in good fun. But I mean, the Red Lion actually seems to attract a nice class of ghost. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't often get a nice monk ghost, do you?
Yeah, why is that? They're monks.
They're monks. You know, these are people
Why
who've dedicated their lives to a peaceful existence, and mostly their
in
ghosts are
death
pretty
seem to be
horrific.
pretty, yeah,
I'm thinking of like the
pretty
Pontefract
awful.
monk, they're pretty bad poltergeists.
Mm.
However, the Red Line seems one of the exceptions, and there was a terrible fire in the building once around the time of the Greyfriars monks. And this monk rushed back in to save a group of children, brought them out, was successful, but succumbed to his injuries
Oh,
and tragically passed away. But he is seen in reception area and he likes to watch people check in or out. And he's not got a malevolent presence. Apparently, people feel quite comforted by him.
oh, that's sweet.
Like he's still looking after the place and checking that, whoever comes in or out is is good. And there's one other ghost, a small boy. Now he's only really seen by children, and he's quite playful. Apparently, he likes to prank a lot and will appear on photographs of guests. He photobombs people, which is how I would spend my time actually if
Oh
I
yeah,
was to haunt.
we did talk about this earlier. If you were to haunt, where would you want to haunt?
Have you thought of somewhere?
Yeah, I've definitely thought somewhere.
Oh, where?
I would haunt 10 Downing Street.
I wonder why.
I would terrorize every single person in that place.
Oh, you have bigger ambitions than me. I was going to haunt a cinema and like whisper the end of films to people.
Yeah, yours is a bit more innocent.
Spoilers.
Mine's a bit more angry.
Oh, you sound like you become a poltergeist.
Oh yeah, I definitely would want. I don't want to just haunt somewhere. I don't want to just appear in photographs. I want to be able to, throw some stuff about, especially if I'm haunting Downing Street.
If you go first, you want me to send your remains there?
Yes, please, please, please post a little envelope of my ashes.
Okay, well, I've got,
But
recorded
I'd
evidence.
only do it to the right wing governments. I wouldn't do it to. I mean, I may, maybe if they, centrists and sort of left parties that don't, you know,
You never know, they may get up to
you
mischief.
know. I mean, basically, I would do it to everyone.
Of course you would. You get bored
Yeah.
otherwise. But apparently, like, I don't think it's the case now because the Red Lion has seen sense and really, given into their history, the paranormal history. They love it. It's on their website, and as you say, they've obviously, put the mannequin up there and they enjoy it. But there was a time where staff were warned about talking about it to the guests, and they could lose their job.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
pretty
pretty
extreme.
harsh. So, and here you go. I've written a little note to myself up here, a little asterisk. Apparently, once a night watchman found he was going through doing his checks and left the restaurant for a minute. And when he came back, all the cushions were stacked. I don't know why. I mean, you hear about it
It
all
was a
the
little
time.
boy ghost, and he was going to run and jump into them.
I think so. Yes, that's what my 18-month-old does. Literally, like piles the cushions and jumps onto them.
I
So
have seen your 18-month-old do that. So
it sounds like a child, doesn't it? Having a
yeah,
bit of fun.
though they do say that ch child ghosts are never what they appear to be.
Mm.
Like, I know I spoke about one earlier who was trampled by a horse, but I have heard it said that when you see children ghosts, they're like people often think that they're not ghosts at all, they're demons.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
Though I think it can't be, 100%. Oh, it's a child ghost, it's a demon. I think it must be sort of,
You thinking of the
situation
black-eyed
based.
children?
Well, no, I mean, we both listen to Ghost in the Burbs, don't we?
Oh
Um,
yes, highly recommend that podcast.
yes, so brilliant. But I do remember her saying it's never a child. it's always it's always a demon.
Oh,
But it's something I had heard other places as well. I mean, I look at it as like a trope in a story. Like, it's never the ghost of a child, it's always a demon.
it's a
Like,
good trope. It makes you, the hairs on your arm stand up a little bit.
hmm
Well, there you go, the Red Lion. Should we go there for lunch one day?
yeah, that would be nice. Say hello to the poor old serving girl.
Yeah, to Alice. Perhaps we could leave a little flower for her. Something.
Oh, shall I do my? I've got one more little one to
Okay.
do.
And me. I've got a mini one as well.
This one, it's still tragic, but I found it quite funny. So, the Bear Inn in Stock is haunted by a man known as Spider. So,
Spider-Man.
yeah, the Spider Man, exactly. So, 400 years ago, Charlie Wilson was an ostler, and during the oh, hang on, I'm getting this confused now. No, the inn is 400 years old. Sorry, this is me speaking before I've read the whole line. So during the closing years of the 19th century, Charlie Wilson was a small man with a strange sideways walk, which earned him the nickname Spider. And he had a really peculiar habit that when he got drunk, he would crawl up the chimney of the tap room in the Bear Inn, and he would emerge soot covered from the fireplace next to the bar. And that was just his little game when he was drunk. He'd get up the chimney, come down the other chimney. However, on one Christmas Eve, he decided not to come down, and he sat in a junction where the two chimneys met in the loft, where they cured bacon. Because why wouldn't you want to sit in a bacon curing? It must have smelt like a dream. Sorry to our vegan friends, but I
You can see
love
what he was thinking.
yeah, I love the smell of bacon. However, his friends wanted him to come down, and he would not come down. He sounds like a character, and I kind of love him for it.
I love him.
So exasperated, they lit a fire
No.
It was a small fire in the grate. Unfortunately, the smoke suffocated old Spider, and there is a rumor, not sure that it's true, that his well-cured remains are still supposedly up there.
No.
So his ghost often descends at night, dressed in white breeches and shiny leather boots, and he does no harm and is content to flit about the place in nooks and shadowy recesses of the Bear Inn. And I just kind of imagine him coming down, doing a little dance, and then,
Just
and then
imagine like a little
back up the
crab.
chimney. Yeah, like a little crab, a little sideways dance. Oh,
Please tell me the smell of bacon
oh,
announces his
I hope
presence.
so. I really hope so.
Add it to our list of lunch places to go to. Maybe if we order some bacon.
Oh, could you imagine though? Like he
Death by bacon.
death by bacon. I mean, it's still a horrendous way to go. And what if his remains are still up there?
Have you got a mini drone? I don't know if I'd want to discover that though. Just this little.
No, I mean, and they've been up there since what was it? The closing years of the 19th century. The article I read told me. So they must be leathery as hell.
Well,
Ooh, yeah,
let's yeah, let's leave that one be. Bless his little heart. As you say, I love him already.
yeah. I thought that was still disturbing, but a fun one for the end of my section.
I think we should have a top 10 ghost list.
Oh yeah,
But
we
just
definitely
add them.
should.
Whenever we find a good one, just add it and then perhaps people can vote.
Yeah. So Charlie Wilson, known as Spider, is the first entry on that list, I think. Though I do want to
Definitely.
add Alice because
Yeah.
I kind of love her. She just wants to make sure the guests are okay, and she had such a terrible time.
I wouldn't blame her if she was like a violent poltergeist, but she's not, bless her. She's still
Just
sounds quite sweet.
a sweet girl who just wants to make sure everybody's okay.
Oh.
Oh
Shall I do my third mini? My last one.
yes, go for it.
So you might have noticed a theme with mine. They're all white and black Tudor timber buildings. Can you guess where I've gone next?
Oh, hang on. There was the Rose and Crown. There's the. Do you know? I know what the one is, but the name escapes me. Go for it.
The old siege house.
Of course.
And again, the history of it is just as interesting, if not more, than the paranormal goings on.
Hmm.
If you were to see this place, I wondered for ages what these marks were. So on the outside of the building, there's these red wax circles all over it. And this is from musket balls, some still embedded in the wood from the siege of Colchester.
Yes, I think that's actually their logo, isn't it? One of those
It
red
is.
wax. Yeah.
It is. So, I mean, already it's a cracking story.
Hmm.
And quite unsurprisingly, a lot of the hauntings are linked to the soldiers from the English Civil War who are seen going in and out or past the building. And in the 90s, there was quite a lot of reports about a cavalier who used to march down East Street and would be seen disappearing outside the hotel, just like get to the hotel and then all of a sudden
Check in.
disappear. Check in, yeah. And I couldn't find much else, but apparently there's one extremely haunted room in which objects move on their own and quite big objects, and staff refuse to work in there alone, so they're put on the rota in pairs. And I just love that.
Ah. Um, the people who run the Rose and Crown now actually are. I think they're still the. They actually came from where I work now. They're.
Oh, the Rose and Crown or the Siege?
Oh, not the Rose and Crown, the Siege House. Sorry, the people who run the Siege House were two of the chefs who used to train people at the place I work at now.
Oh, fab.
And I have been there for food, and it's really, really nice.
We went there for our Christmas meal a couple of years ago.
Oh
Staff
yeah, we
Christmas
had our
meal.
Christmas meal there once as well. It was so good.
It's the place to go, I think, for higher education places to go for their Christmas meals. Yeah, it was very tasty. Very tasty. Yeah, all these places that we've talked about,
Yeah,
they are don't let it
hauntings
put you
put you
off.
off. You know, they're all like really beautiful old buildings, really nice places to go visit. So
Yeah. And, we've done 6 hotels. We may have to revisit this subject because there are
there
so
was
many more.
it was a gold mine.
And also, there are some that I'm convinced are haunted. They must be, but there's nothing about them. So,
Is
Wivenhoe
this
House, I'm coming for you.
Wivenhoe House? I don't know that one very well.
The university.
Oh yes, of course. And you were quite interested in the other sort of big boutique hotel we have in Colchester. Are we allowed to say who that
Okay,
is? Do they try and
could do. I'm
yeah,
I,
they
I'm very interested in. Well, it's an urban legend, but I'd love to know if there's any truth behind it. The Greyfriars and well, East Hill House, because that's going to become part of the chain. And I really want to go. Can we do an afternoon tea there? Who's seen the afternoon
yes, of
teas?
course.
Yeah, it looks
Um,
amazing.
but I know that when you were researching, you were calling these places, and you weren't always getting a response, were you?
I didn't, and bless them. Do you know what? It could be because they're exceptionally busy.
Oh yeah, of course, that is probably one good reason.
And it's
Um,
probably why we should revisit it. I did email and contact a lot of hotels, so I might, we never know, I might get some responses, so we might need to revisit this subject again. But yeah, it's as you say, a treasure trove. And the thing that interests me the most with Greyfriars is a supposed tunnel. A tunnel!
oh my goodness, again,
Yeah, sorry.
tunnels everywhere.
And this one is haunted. Apparently, there's a rumor of immurement. Immurement?
Immunity.
Well, buried alive.
Uh,
But I think
I
that
can't remember the
actually,
word for that now.
I think it is immurement.
Immune. I've never heard that. Maybe it's one of those words that I've only ever read, and then when I hear it, it sounds very strange.
Could be. But I think, do you know what I'm thinking? It could be confused with a story from The Fox and the Fiddler. But I'll save that for a pub theme because, again, there's a tunnel and Matthew Hopkins is involved.
Ah,
Your
that.
favorite, yeah.
Ah.
So, yeah, I'm still digging into that. Digging in tunnel. So we'll see what happens. Now, before we start to close off and everything, there's one thing I've noticed, and I know you've noticed. For the oldest town, Britain, and the Roman connections, there's very few Roman ghosts.
Yes.
And I know you have a theory, and I have a theory, and we haven't told each other yet.
Who wants to go first
I'll
and
go.
see whether our theories match?
I don't mind going first.
Okay,
Now,
go for it.
this has probably been born out of watching far too much Supernatural. But with the Boudican revolt and the fact that, Colchester was pretty much razed to the ground and burned, there's a whole like level, isn't there, where it's just charcoal. And I'm trying to find the actual source for this. If anybody knows it, please let me know that the ground was salted to stop things growing. Now, as we know, any Supernatural fans out there, if you salt and burn, you're gonna destroy the ghosts. That's my
Are we
very
saying Boudica was the first
hunter.
hunter? Yeah.
Why not? Why not? You heard it here first.
My theory is slightly different to yours, in fact, almost entirely different, though it does have some of the same themes. My theory is that it's to do with the ground level. Because as we know, there is, like you mentioned, there's a whole layer of charcoal basically underneath Colchester where it was burnt down. I've heard it called the Boudican Event Horizon,
Yes.
the Boudica ash level. It's a geological phenomenon here in Colchester. You can actually see. So if you go down to a place we didn't mention, and we probably should have looked up, the George Hotel, in their basement, they have a section where you can actually see the strata and see that level,
Ooh.
which is quite interesting. So that is the level where sort of Roman occupancy is, and it's in the basement.
So if there is any ghosts, they're probably going unseen.
Possibly. I mean, it just seems weird. Like why would a Roman ghost appear on the street level of Colchester when its street level was at least, a few feet below? I mean,
It may explain why there's a lot of basement shenanigans in Colchester. I mean, again, this is more like word of mouth.
yeah.
But
Basement shenanigans.
basement shenanigans. I mean, we know people who work in the shops along there, the
Hmm.
pubs, and we've had a chat over a pint before, and there's always a story about barrels getting moved and noises. I don't think there's an establishment with a basement that hasn't got something odd going on in the basement.
I mean, there's. I was going to take this to a very weird place, but
Is
I
it
do
weirder
know.
than supernatural?
Yes, I do know
Oh,
somebody who moved into a house in Colchester who discovered in their basement. This is probably TMI. They discovered in their basement that it had been painted blood red. And it's very rare to have like a basement in Colchester like this, but they had one. The basement was painted blood red and it had a lot of ties like over the beams. And so they didn't think a lot about it. They jokingly called it the sex dungeon. And then as they got their house on, they basically bought their house at auction. It had been foreclosed. And when this person was moving in, they got a knock at the door, and this guy was like, "Oh, you opening up again?" And she was like, "No, I'm just moving in." And he explained to her that the house she was buying had once been a brothel.
oh, ooh, okay.
Yeah, with a sex dungeon, and that's why.
Basement shenanigans.
Basement shenanigans, exactly. I don't know how true that is, but I tend to believe that one.
Oh, it's a good story to share.
Yeah.
I mean, we're Eerie Essex, isn't it? It doesn't have to all be ghosts. It can just be things that are just interesting. And that is
So,
interesting.
yes, it was. I accidentally got trapped in her basement once because
Maybe we
it has two doors, and there was one door right at the top of the steps and one door sort of halfway up. And because I'm so short, I couldn't reach the one that was halfway up. And she was like, "Oh, I don't want to move everything in front of the door
you
to
got
get the."
trapped in
Well, it took me a while. It took me a few minutes of scrambling to climb up, but basically we all went down there to have a look at the sex dungeon, and then when everybody got up, I was the last one out, and I was too short to actually reach the door to get out.
a I just now got visions of you haunting a basement like that. I'm gonna never mind Parliament. I'm gonna send your ashes there.
Oh
You
God,
won't be able to get out.
thank you.
Eternally trying to climb out.
Just like little scratching noises
Hmm.
like this.
Well, we
Right.
did it, our first podcast.
Yay.
I hope you've all enjoyed.
Yeah, I hope this actually sounded better than
It
like
did in our heads.
it did in our heads. Yeah. And yeah, we'll be back soon with another episode.
As we said earlier, we have about 60 subjects we want to cover, so we will be coming back. Maybe going back round on some because you never know.
Too much information.
I might wear down some of my hotels and they'll go, oh, all right, we'll tell you. But if anyone's got any stories, anything, if it's about what we've talked about in this episode, or if it's just something genuinely eerie that's happened to you, we'd love to hear from you. And you can reach us at eerieessexpodcast@gmail.com. I double check it before you send anything. There's a lot of E's in there, and it's I made the um web address and I struggle with it. I have to count how many E's I've put in and think, how on earth do you spell eerie? But there you go. We'd love to hear from you. And I think we should do a call out and a thank you to a couple of podcasts who have inspired us, but also guided us. I mean, Weird Norfolk, for me, they are brilliant. If you're
Yeah, you got
after,
me onto that one. It is really good.
it
Well
is
worth a listen.
so good. They are so funny. Stacia and Sofra, who talk about all things weird in Norfolk, occasionally Suffolk. And I imagine we might dip our toe in Suffolk
Yeah,
now and
we
again.
may have to sort of, fight for the rights over Suffolk.
I think challenge a duel. Unless anyone wants to do strange Suffolk, put that out there. But they were a really lovely source of inspiration. And when I told them what we were doing, they were so encouraging and they can't wait to hear it. So I hope you enjoy it as you inspired us. And Folkways, our friend Ashley, who has done an absolutely beautiful folklore podcast. It's like a guided meditation through the folklore of Britain. It's like you sit down by a roaring fire with her with a glass of wine or a brandy. I'm never going to look at brandy the same now. Um,
This brandy tastes a bit strange, a little
mm,
bit like
mm,
like like bigamy.
yes. So yeah, highly recommend that one as well. And she, bless her, gave us really good tips on what software to use and how to do a good podcast. So thank you, Ashley, for that. We couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you all again.
Yes. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.